If you don't have Nintendo Online, creating an island can be hard. You can't trade items, all flowers have to be bred by yourself, and most importantly, you can't use custom designs. But I actually might have some ideas and some inspo to go along with those for you. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. One of my favorite things in Animal Crossing New Horizons is to come up with different theme ideas and island concepts. So I decided to start a new series on my channel where we deep dive into different themes and I try to give you some inspo around what colors, items, and codes to use, as well as a speed build and some tips to go along with it. Let's start the series off today with a no codes island idea. My main motivation and idea for this theme was that I wanted to create a concept that's quote unquote easy to work on even if you don't have access to Nintendo Online. And something that quickly came to mind are the mushroom items. Mario mushrooms, for example, can be ordered right from the start from your Nook shopping, and if you play during mushroom season, which is November in the northern hemisphere and May in the southern, it's relatively easy to find the mushroom set DIYs from balloons as well as mushrooms all around the trees. Most of those items actually come in red and or yellow, which is perfect because those are flowers that we can easily purchase from Nook's Cranny or Leaf without any flower breeding necessary. So there we go, we have our island theme established. Let's work on a red and yellow mushroom forest with a few elements of decor in there, just because of the color scheme. Quite obvious in regards to the entire title and idea for this island theme, we're not going to be using any codes for this, but there are still just a few things I would like to mention here. Number one is that I can highly recommend chatting with Sable every day, because at some point she will be really friendly to you and actually hand you some patterns that you can then use as fabric on different items. My favorite ones with this theme in mind are specifically the red one with the little white dots, the red and white options with the circles, the little, I guess almost checkered red one, the yellow sun one, and the yellow one with the white flowers. And the other thing I want to talk about is pathing. Since we won't be using any codes, we have to get a bit creative here. I will actually try to decorate completely without any path whatsoever. So instead I will try and naturally guide people across different areas. This can kind of be achieved by using land and waterscaping to already create certain sections, and then also by further blocking off some areas or guide players with items, fencing, as well as trees. Where people are supposed to walk, I will use some smaller weeds. I will also leave a few open tiles to kind of create that illusion that people often walk here and it's not quite as overgrown. Alternatively, there's also some cute in-game pathing options. You could, for example, lay down a 2-tile white path, plant some little weeds or flowers, as well as drop some mushrooms or place leaf piles to make it look a bit more foresty. You can also create a narrow and winding 1-tile path, or even create circles with different dirt options using the same decorating techniques. And of course, you can also mix and match between these different pathing options across your entire island. And now let's get decorating. I will be building this inspo section by my entrance, and I think I will try to keep as many of these tall grown weeds as I can. And I actually quite like this pond that my starter map had. So let's try and work that in. Apart from that, the area is completely flat. I actually tried this theme on one of the DLC plots before just to see if I enjoyed building without codes, and I actually quite like the idea of including a house in this build, so let's try and map out a spot for that. I'm leaning towards having it kind of behind this pond. I think it's 4x4. And I feel like that'll just make a very cute view from the front. Yeah, okay, that should be good. Apart from that, I just want to have one other main focus by this entrance. I think we'll do this on the right-hand side, and we'll do a little picnic table setup. I would usually put a custom design under this so that I can ground it a little bit more. I obviously can't do that here. So what I will do instead is I'll just put a patch of in-game dirt maybe. Kind of like this. Now, I think I want to try maybe adding some cliffs. That way the path might be more obvious and the areas are kind of a little bit more separated, which I think is quite nice. I would definitely want to have one behind the house here, so we can kind of separate it from resin services. I think this should give us some decent space for some trees, hopefully. And then I think we're also going to add another one as a backdrop kind of for our picnic. So it's kind of sectioned off in that sense. Okay, let's try to maybe block the area off so you can pretty much only walk onwards from the entrance. Maybe we could just put in a little bit of waterscaping here on the right-hand side of the picnic. Maybe even turn it into a waterfall or something like that. Okay, yes, I think this is generally a decent layout. So the only one on my island that even like remotely fits right now, I think, is Flurry. So let's go ahead and get her house so that she can move in here. As villagers, I would say that any red or yellow or also kind of foresty looking villagers are perfect for this type of theme. But I also will say that in the end, you kind of just need to pick villagers that you love regardless of what they look like, because it'll very much increase your joy in this game. At least that was my experience in the past. If you have the DLC available to you, then you can also easily customize the villager houses to fit your theme anyway. I'll actually be showing you some options as we speak. I especially love anything that looks like a bit more rustic to fit that forest vibe, and then just has like a splash of color with the door and roof being in like red and or yellow. You could definitely also go for some really colorful options here, and with our color scheme, I actually think we have some decent choices when it comes to the wreath options as well. And if you don't have the DLC, but would actually still like the villagers and houses to fit the vibe of your island, I've put together a small little list of villagers that might fit with regards to the personalities. So for Sisterly, that would be Canberra, Hazel, and Kat. For Normal, we've got Bettina, Caroline, Goldie, and Sally. Peppy would be Bubbles, Bunny, Ketchup, Patty, or Victoria. And Snooty is Eloise and Pecan. Moving over to the male villagers, for Jock, we actually have quite a few. We've got Bill, Drift, Louie, Peck, Rudy, or Teddy. Lazy would be Benedict, Eckbird, maybe Elmer and Eric, and Spork. Smug villagers that I feel like would fit are Chatter and Graham. And for Cranky, we've got Boyd, Gonzo, and Grizzly. This, of course, is not the ultimate list, but it is just supposed to give you some inspiration in regards to your villagers. And I believe this is what I want to do for Flurry's house. Yes, nice. Okay, I do definitely like that. By the way, I also extended this cliff a little bit further back and put in an incline, red, of course, as the area to the right-hand side will oversee a big lake. Now let's go ahead and try and figure out some tree placements. I basically want this area to feel like a forest, and the trees are also supposed to kind of guide your way, but I don't want to obstruct the view of the house or the picnic area. I'll definitely also be using some stunted trees for that reason, and some tree stumps, and I actually use this method where I mark them for myself, just using a little custom design I made in the moment. So a 2 or a 3 means second or third stage, and the circle just means tree stump. Okay, so if you walk past this house, I think it would be quite nice to have just another interesting area to look at, right? Oh, how about a little tomato farm? That would be so cute. Y'all, I think Axel is judging the farm right now. Oh, actually, I think if anything, this might be his stamp of approval, right? Okay, let's get planting then. I kind of don't want to plant too many trees at once, so let's just see these when they're grown and then go from there. Okay, and now as decorating Moline works a bit on the picnic area and, you know, some bits and bobs here and there, let's chat about some items that you can use for this theme. For trees, obviously you can see that I've been using hardwood and cedar trees, and I also decided to mix in some apple trees for that little pop of red. Apart from that, there will be just a mixture of different red and yellow flowers, as well as the weeds, of course, and I will also be using some glowing moss and shrubs to really fill the area up and also kind of make it a bit of a magical mushroom moment. There are some staple items that I will probably mention for every single theme that I do that include things such as different types of chairs. You know, we're talking wooden stool, simple stool, maybe like the boxy stool. I do also really like the mum cushion for this specific theme, and then we've got a bunch of miscellaneous things, right? So there might be different flowers, you could use the decorative bottles, different types of food, just like little details that really bring an area to life. And this is very much dependent on the actual type of area that you're building as well. Obviously, all of those mushroom items are perfect. There are different Mario platforms and different sizes, and of course the wide array of options in the mushroom set. We've got the parasol, the partition, maybe even the lamp, log, and so on and so forth. This theme will definitely be on the foresty side, and you can already see me having used this, but the log furniture set is absolutely perfect, and in my experience, also quite realistic to acquire. Apart from that, I also would recommend using wheat fields, maybe different types of rocks like the garden rock, the tall garden rock, and I'm also always a very, very big fan of fencing. I was also lucky enough to have a balloon flying by and shoot down a present and just use that up for decoration because I thought it absolutely looked perfect in that spot. So if that's something that sounds good to you, definitely also keep that in mind. If you want to add a bit more of a magical touch, by the way, you could also include some giant vines and, for example, some glowing moss items such as the stool or the balloon or even the glowing moss boulder. And I could definitely see some dropped star fragments in this area as well. I personally didn't include those with my decorating, but those are definitely some nice options. By the way, there is a website that I love to use that's called Nook.exchange, which is amazing to just browse through the catalog of items that this game offers. You can kind of filter by either crafted or orderable items, miscellaneous and housewares, and much, much more. And it really helps kind of just familiarizing yourself with items. Alternatively, I can also recommend the app, which is called ACNH.guide, which also has the entire selection. Oh my gosh, there are so many villagers in this entrance. Can you please let me decorate in peace? Okay, I don't think I can plant or place anything in front of the house here, so I think what I'll do is make a little doorstep moment just with a bit of in-game dirt pathing, just so in the overview it doesn't look too empty. Our tomatoes have all grown in, so let's move them around. I think I want to have just a few gaps in between to add some glowing moss maybe, or also for some farmy items. So just like we did in the front right of this area, I think I kind of want to restrict it here behind Flurry's house as well and create another kind of like interesting change in landscaping. So I'm thinking a bridge maybe? So I'll be choosing the wooden bridge, but I think there are quite a few cute options for this one. Like even the red Zen bridge would be absolutely beautiful with this. Also, here's just a little clip of Flurry sitting on a tree stump because, you know, I almost died of cuteness. And here's Flurry running and sitting underneath a tree because, you know, there's always time for Flurry, right? Right? Next step will be to add some trees to those cliffs that we've built. There we go. And I think it might actually be time for me to use a transparent tile. So first I'll make just kind of a solid color custom design kind of like this. And then I'll just place it down in the areas that I want to keep empty. So I just don't want flowers to spawn here when it rains, etc. And once that's done, let's change it to transparent. All right, nice. So we should be safe with this entrance part now. I think the core of this area is actually standing. So we do have to definitely work on a few of the edge parts. This water feature that I did earlier for the bridge here feels a bit thin and awkward. So I was just thinking of adding like maybe like one of those floating island thingies with one tree in the center. So just like a 3x3 tile like this. I think it feels a little bit less awkward now. I do like that, yes. Okay, we want this area here, like the farmy bit, to kind of stand out. So I think we have to frame it with a few trees maybe. And of course, remember to include a few mushrooms in the area as well. And then this area on the left of the little pond is still looking a bit bare. It is just going to be a filler though. Like you don't run past it or anything. So I'm just going to fill it up with a mixture of trees, flowers, that kind of stuff. So I guess first step, trees and big mushrooms. Also, by the way, on stream, we decided to remove a bit of this cliff again because the landscaping looked a bit awkward on the map. We're not going to talk about it, but it does open up the path to resident services more, which I actually quite like. The trees have grown in. I'm liking it so far, and now I think I'm going to start with glowing moss, which I absolutely love. If you can get your hands on this from Captain Island, or if you have the DLC, also use that one. Definitely collect as much as you can because this stuff makes decorating so fun and so versatile. I really am quite obsessed. I'm going to be keeping my farm relatively simple in this because it's just like a small one, but you could definitely go all out, include like shovels, hand carts, maybe like watering cans, seed bags, and much more. Like there's a lot of amazing farm items that come in very natural colors or even like a red and yellow version. That should be like the main parts of this. Now we just need to fill the rest with flowers and a few fillers. I personally find that filling a space up until, well, at least almost all the tiles are covered makes it feel like a bit more complete to me and just very detailed in general. Also, like filler areas, in my opinion, make the actual like themed and I guess quote unquote important areas stand out a bit more. But of course, keep in mind, this is totally personal preference as well. You could leave more tiles empty, or you could also use more items than me. It just completely depends on your own style. Ooh, I want to include some more toy ducks, I think. Right? Let's just say they have some important documents to sign at resident services, right? So that's where they're heading. Totally makes sense. This is fine. Oh, also, by the way, I decided to decorate this in May because I just really like this shade of green, especially in combination with the red and yellow. But once again, absolutely personal preference. Let's do all these cliff fillers. And done. Just needs to grow in now. And this other cliff here, I will just decorate until the land bridge part starts. What are we thinking? Alrighty, I have some more area ideas for this theme for you, as well as a totally different color scheme. But first, let's look at the little entrance area that we built. And there we go with our little inspo entrance build, I would say. I mean, you've pretty much seen me decorate this. We are currently in May at around 7 a.m. because I quite like the lighting for this. And then, of course, we have our little picnic area over here to the side with the toy deck and the plushie, just, you know, feasting on some delicious stuff right there. And then I hope that you can see the path, even though we've used no code to indicate it, just with a few open tiles, that we have this signpost kind of indicating that obviously you can go to the house right here. In this case, that is Flurry. Or you can also make your way through the trees here, follow the toy ducks. Maybe you also have some important business by resident services. Or of course you can follow this incline and go up to, you know, the future land bridge. And the third option obviously is to go past the house, past our little tomato farm here that we did on the side, just with a bit of glowing moss. You know, we've got some barrels, and then we do have this little kind of filler decoration. I just added like this mush log with the books. I am currently storing the houses on the beach still, so they unfortunately obstruct the view a tiny little bit, but I think it's mostly fine. And then from this area, that just kind of continues onwards to the bridge, and then as you can see, big construction going on. So there we go, a red and yellow mushroom forest. Also, as a quick explanation, you might have seen those pink azaleas earlier, as the shrub is in bloom during May. I don't really love those for the vibe, so what I do before I upload a DA or take some pictures is I time travel to a month where these are not in season. For me, that would be June, and then I jump backwards to exactly the time that I like for my island, and there we go, all the shrubs are green. Speaking of a DA, if you have Nintendo Online and you would like to walk around this entrance, I have in fact updated my DA for this, which I will put on the screen right now. Alongside the build that we looked at today, I also do want to try and give you a few more area ideas for the rest of the island. I'll be showing you some similar builds that I've done before on other islands with a different aesthetic, or some inspo pictures so that you can get a better idea of it. I'm always a big fan of circle builds and think they especially fit well with this forest and also slightly magical theme. You could, for example, make your rocks all spawn in a circle, or also just create one with tree stumps and or items. And then you just need to add in some flowers, mushrooms, and small details, and I'm sure it'll turn out beautiful. How about setting up a music player and putting together a set of gyros for a little concert? By the way, the KK Slider music tracks can also be super cute for decorating as well. I feel like y'all knew this was coming, but obviously I have to mention a farm. You could make it much bigger than the one that we built by the entrance and add, for example, a little shed in the background. Also, an additional orchard with maybe even a market alongside it could be super cute. And you could set up a mixture of food items as well as some flower or mushroom things for them to sell. Apart from the crop farms, I also think flower farms are an amazing option as well, or you could even go a step further and turn it into an actual meadow, maybe with a few butterfly models. How about building a lake? Whether big or small, I always love seeing these on islands. Also, I just had to think of a campsite that I did before with some balloons in the background that you get during Festivale season. You could also, for example, do this with your own house. I just think the vibes fit what we've been trying to create here. And then I just had this image of a little rocky horse racing area, kind of like you'd set up some sledding hill, I guess, like surrounded by trees and mushrooms. How freaking cute would that be? This is just a small list to hopefully get you started, and I will also link my Pinterest inspo board for this theme. Maybe that'll spark some further ideas for you. This entire video we have been focusing on red and yellow, but you know what? There's also some other options for you, especially if you don't mind breeding flowers. You could go a more natural route with some cream and brown customizations. I also quite like the idea of purple and yellow, and the one that I will show you just a little bit of inspo for is blue and white. Let's just go into that little DLC inspo build that I did. Many of the mushrooms actually do exist in either a blue or white version, and most items can also be adjusted to fit the different color vibe or be switched with something similar, of course. We'll also go ahead and replace those apple trees with regular hardwood ones, and adjust the house to fit better. And last but not least, let's switch out those flowers as well. And there we go. Same idea, totally different vibe. And by the way, you could even go as far as doing different colored sections on one island, or even mix them all together for more of a rainbow moment. I hope that you liked this little theme inspo video today. Let me know your thoughts, and also if you have some more theme ideas that you'd like to see a video like this for. Here's another video with some filler inspo for you so you don't run out of ideas. And then thank you all so much for watching today. I hope that you have an amazing time until I see you in my next video. Bye everyone!